Chapter 1633. Looking at Snake's conflicted expression, Gu Mengmeng smiled slyly. He was just too adorable. Yeah, if Snake knew that Gu Mengmeng used the word adorable to describe him, he might really fly into a rage. But what could he do? He was just adorable. That unsmiling and aloof Prince Charming, Lord Snake, who studied in S University for a year and was treated as a mute and did not speak a single word to his classmates, was now staring with his eyes wide open, as if he had suffered a loss but had nowhere to vent his anger. It was a perfect match for the trending emoticon "I feel bitter in my heart, but I won't say it." This contrast, if it wasn't adorable, what was it? Using the book to cover her face, Gu Mengmeng pecked Snake's cheek as if she was deceiving herself. Then, she returned to her original position, smiling mischievously at Snake. This kiss brightened up Snake's entire expression. How could he be in a bad mood? Then, the surrounding people exploded even more. Hey! The loyal bodyguard who was here to look after the princess wife, your future princess kissed a gigolo in public and you're just calmly pretending to be blind. If Gu Mengmeng and the other two claimed to be number 2, no one would dare to claim to be number 1. Everyone was paying attention to her, but no one dared to go near her. When the news of Gu Mengmeng being the CEO of Monsieur was released, there were still people who tried to suck up to her. But when the news of F country's future princess was released, the world instantly quietened down. Especially that Miss Mo from the Mo family. She poured a basin of water on them in the toilet, directly soaking the Mo family, a family with 100 years of history. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, and when the wall is down, everyone kicks it. In an instant, the Mo family turned from a well-off wealthy family into a street rat that everyone wanted to beat up. All their businesses were suppressed by Snake in all aspects, without any regard for costs. Even if the Mo family had a mountain of gold and silver, it was not enough for Snake to scam them like this, so very quickly, they faced the crisis of having their cash flow broken. This news was magnified by the media, and all the other businesses that had business dealings with them came to settle their accounts, causing the Mo family, a family that was in a precarious situation, to be battered and exhausted. And the one who spread the news of the Mo family's cash flow breaking was the Miss Mo's marriage partner, the other wealthy family in S City, the Fan family. Marriage had nothing to do with love in the first place. You have your fun, and I have mine. It was very normal. That was why the young master of the Fan family, Fan Yuanbin, did what he did not because he was jealous of his fiancée for finding trouble with another woman for another man. Instead, it was because the old master of the Mo family had come to ask for help. He hoped that the Fan family would lend a helping hand at this critical juncture and complete the marriage between Fan Yuanbin and the young lady of the Mo family, Mo Fun, ahead of time. Then, he would lend the Mo family a sum of money in the name of betrothal gifts to help the Mo family tide over the current crisis. After the storm had passed and the Mo family had recovered, they would return the money in the name of dowry. However, the Mo clan had forgotten one thing. The so-called marriage alliance was a cooperative relationship that could only be formed when both parties were of equal strength. Right now, the Mo clan was already in existence that everyone avoided like the plague. Chapter 1634. Once this news came out, it was like adding hail to snow. Some of the old business partners who did not press for the debt because of old friendships had no choice but to come to settle the debt. The Mo family really could not fork out the money. None of old Master Mo's antiques were left. They were all moved away. Even the heirloom ring on his finger was forcefully taken off to pay off the debt. Gu Mengmeng did not know and Snake did not remember any of this. Because although they had transmigrated back a week ago, this week was a long 1,000 years that they had spent in the beast world. Snake experienced the decomposition of his body and was suppressed in the magma of Motu for 1,000 years. After his rebirth, how could he see anyone else other than Gu Mengmeng? To him, the Mo family's matter was just an order he had sent to his assistant while waiting for Gu Mengmeng to bathe in the changing room. Moreover, how could he remember a small episode from 1,000 years ago for so long? But to the others here, all of this happened yesterday. Everyone in S City knew how expensive Miss Mo's basin of water was. Under such circumstances, who would dare to go near Gu Mengmeng? Of course, it would be glorious to cling to her, but if they did not know their limits, they would end up in a terrible state. It was not easy to cling to this thigh. And look at the two people beside her, they did not give anyone a chance to get close to her. So, after Gu Mengmeng returned to school, other than the countless gazes that lingered on her, the truly annoying ones did not stick to her. But, as she had been the messenger of the beast deity for over 5 years in the beast world. After being stared at by ferocious wild beasts for 5 years, the gazes of the modern world seemed like child's play. Compared to the hundreds of males in Saint Nazaire who used their true forms to stare at her with their green eyes, tearing the carcasses of animals around her, drinking their blood, chewing on the heads of tigers and claws of wolves in front of her, these gazes in the modern world were negligible. Because she had completely forgotten the past, and everyone's gazes were treated as ineffective attacks by Gu Mengmeng, she did not take it to heart. So the Mo family's matter did not cause any ripples in Gu Mengmeng's heart. Gu Mengmeng did not have any classes in the afternoon, and Monday was the regular training day for the basketball club. Strictly speaking, Gu Mengmeng had not seen Bai Lan for over 10 years. She really missed her. To be able to return here and see Bai Lan was definitely the thing that Gu Mengmeng wanted the most. She dragged Snake and Gregory to the basketball club early in the morning and saw Bai Lan playing with Zhang Jinqing. The two of them were now in a relationship, but they were not as affectionate as other couples. Instead, they were more like good brothers who would fight each other whenever they saw each other. However, it was one thing for the two of them to insult each other to the point that they were worthless. If an outsider dared to say anything bad about the other party, they would roll up their sleeves and attack without a word of nonsense. Bai Lan. Gu Mengmeng's eyes reddened the moment she saw Bai Lan. That kind of feeling, as if it was a lifetime ago, directly attacked his heart. Ever since Snake came back to life, Gu Mengmeng's tears, which she had not shed for so many years, gushed out in an instant, unable to be stopped. Chapter 1635. As she said that, Bai Lan glared fiercely at Snake. Snake really felt like he could not defend himself even with 100 mouths. Feeling wronged by Bai Lan's glare, he leaped up angrily, but could not do anything to this woman. Gu Mengmeng cared about her, very very much. She did not say anything and just called out, Bai Lan, before her tears flowed uncontrollably. Snake did not doubt that if he dared to touch a single strand of Bai Lan's hair today, Gu Mengmeng would drown him with her tears. Gu Mengmeng cried even more fiercely as she hugged Bai Lan tightly, choking with sobs. I miss you so much, I'll go. Bai Lan quivered. She grabbed Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and pulled her away. Glancing at her tearful little face, she hugged her harshly back into her arms. She said in an especially manly manner, all right, I'll satisfy you. Go back to the dormitory to sleep tonight. If you can get off the bed tomorrow, it'll be my loss. Actually, girls would occasionally crack such jokes among themselves, but most of the time it was in private, when there were no boys around. Other than Bai Lan, there was probably no other girl in this world who dared to say something like that in front of everyone. Gu Mengmeng was tickled by Bai Lan's words. She punched Bai Lan lightly and sniffled. If I occupy you, what will happen to Zhang Jinqing? Bai Lan laughed heartily and said, both of us have become lesbians, then let him go and be gay with Snake. Wife-swapping games, it's quite exciting just thinking about it. Ha ha ha. Gu Mengmeng was someone who had lived for more than 1,000 years, but she still could not withstand Bai Lan's charms. Pinching Bai Lan, Gu Mengmeng was just about to scold her for not being serious when her waist tightened. Gu Mengmeng was suddenly pulled from behind and fell into a chest. Turning back, she met Gregory's cold and calm eyes. He was looking at Bailon with an extremely unfriendly gaze. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if he was sizing up whether Bailon was male or female. Gu Mengmeng was stunned. She then remembered that Gregory came from the beast world. This was his first time interacting with a modern person. He would definitely not be able to adapt to Bailon's heavy-taste jokes. She wanted to explain but could not find the right words, so she could only turn to Snake for help. But the moment she saw Snake's face, fine, because of Bailon's wife-swapping joke, this old man's face was about to freeze, so he obviously wouldn't help. Gu Mingming's current position was a little awkward, because the way Gregory carried her was the same way Elvis carried her in the beast world, supporting his buttocks with one arm, as if he was carrying a child. This was very normal in the beast world, but in the modern world, basically no boyfriend had ever hugged his girlfriend like this. Especially since in everyone's eyes, Snake was Gu Mingming's boyfriend, while Gregory was just a bodyguard. This is. Bailon's expression was also unfriendly. She had already noticed Gregory just now, but Gu Mengmeng cried the moment she saw him, so she did not have the time to ask. Now, even her real boyfriend didn't dare to snatch him from her hands, but a hothead who popped out of nowhere dared to snatch him from her hands. Chapter 1636. Gu Mengmeng patted Gregory's shoulder and said, "Put me down first." Gregory's brows were still furrowed and he was obviously on guard against Bailon. "Gregory." Gu Mengmeng frowned and her gaze was filled with urgency. Her eyes were still red from crying and Gregory naturally could not bear to make her angry again, so he placed her on the ground but kept his arms around her shoulders and did not allow her to walk over to Bailon. Gu Mengmeng had no choice but to say to Gregory, "This is Bailon, a very important friend to me, just as important as Sandy. Understand?" Gu Mengmeng purposely emphasized on the word very important and even used Sandy as an example. Although Gregory was still frowning, he had retracted his cold aura and just nodded as a form of greeting. Gu Mengmeng knew that Gregory would at least not lay a hand on Bailon and heaved a sigh of relief. She turned to look at Bailon and said, "He is Gregory, he is my..." Gu Mengmeng suddenly bit her own tongue. How should she introduce him? "This is my guardian beast, the kind that can die for me but cannot enter my bed." Gu Mengmeng already felt awkward introducing guardian beasts in the beast world, and now that she was in the present world, she could not bring herself to say it. "Pursuer." Snake gave Gu Mengmeng a simple reminder and gave her a suitable phrase. Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake gratefully as if she had just been pardoned and said, "Yes, yes, yes, pursuer." F***ck. Bailon's eyes widened and she wrapped her arms around Gu Mengmeng's to pull her to her side. If she were to grab a handful of melon seeds and munch on them, she would be a modern gossipy woman. Bailon nudged Gu Mengmeng with her shoulder and said, How did you do it? You made these two love rivals coexist peacefully and even work together to fight against outsiders? But, girl, your taste is not good. How can you find one who looks like a mute and another who still looks like a mute?" Gu Mengmeng could not explain to Bailon how loyal the males in the beast world were to their own females. And she did not want to change their stubbornness. Call her selfish, call her anything, but she frankly admitted that she liked and enjoyed the loyalty and unique gentleness they gave her. So Gu Mengmeng just smiled and said, "I like the ice abstinence type." "TSK, do you have masochistic tendencies? Isn't it good to coax you every day? You like to hug ice cubes. Aren't you afraid that you'll freeze?" "I won't." Gu Mengmeng chuckled because she knew better than anyone else how warm her man was to her. He would never freeze her. Bailon smiled slyly, a different kind of ambiguity appearing in the corner of Gu Mengmeng's eyes. She nudged Bailon with her shoulder. You are so annoying. Are you shy?" As Bailon spoke, she held Gu Mengmeng and walked to the side. When she passed by Zhang Jinqing, she said with a look of disdain, Aren't you the leader? Everyone is here. Don't we need to organize a practice? So you're all here to let out some fresh air in the basketball club, right? Enchanting did not lose his temper even after being teased by Bailon. He just chuckled and said, yes, 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 let's hurry up and practice. The Tech University basketball team sent us a challenge letter and indicated that they want to meet Snake. When the time comes, the surrounding universities' basketball clubs will all send representatives to watch the match. Snake, whether our basketball club can become an instant hit depends on you. Aside from the topic. Chapter 1637. Having not touched a basketball for 1,000 years, Snake felt an itch to play, so he entered the changing room to change. Gregory was not a member of the basketball club, but he was tall, well-built and handsome. Enchanting had thought of pulling him into the basketball club, but Gregory was obviously an enemy of Bailon. He guarded Gu Mengmeng closely and did not spare a single glance at anyone else. This caused Enchanting to attempt to strike up a conversation several times, only to be met with a nose full of ice. In the end, Enchanting gave up. And considering that Snake and Gregory were love rivals, for the sake of team harmony, Enchanting could only give up the idea of recruiting Gregory. And all these psychological activities, other than Enchanting, no one else noticed. He was the legendary playboy with a lot of inner drama, but no one had an audience. Snake was still very handsome when he played basketball. Gu Mengmeng and Bailon did not chat for long before their eyes were attracted to Snake. Bailon laughed at the side. Good for nothing. Then she gave Gregory a warning look, which probably meant, did you see that? The two of them have a good relationship. You'd better know when to back off. Don't ruin their relationship. Gregory could not be bothered with Bailon's warning. He just quietly admired Gu Mengmeng, who was looking at Snake with an infatuated look. Did he want to be the one who attracted her gaze? Grace was seriously thinking about this problem. If sweating profusely on the basketball court could make her look at him with such focus and admiration, would he be willing? The answer was yes, he was willing. But when she looked at him like that, he could not return the same focus and would miss out on her expression. Then would he still be willing? He was not willing. He had suppressed motive for 1,000 years, which meant he had missed out on seeing her for 1,000 years. And now, he was not willing to miss out on seeing her again. So what if her gaze was not focused on him? As long as she was in his line of sight, he would feel blissful. After the practice ended, Snake brought Gu Mengmeng and Gregory back to the villa. Snake's sports car only had 2 seats, so a commercial car was temporarily transferred from the 4th Fleet. His sports car was parked directly in the school. Anyway, no one dared to interfere. It was Gregory's first time in a car. He was nervous and uneasy. To comfort him, Gu Mengmeng sat with him in the back seat. Snake was unhappy, but he only said, "So weak." He did not say anything else. Gregory did not refute. If he showed weakness, baby Meng would accompany him and care about him. He did not mind showing weakness all the time. After all, out of the 4 males in the family, he was the only level 3 orc. Gu Mengmeng held on to Gregory's hand and gently patted the back of it. "It's all right, don't be afraid. Snake's driving skills are top-notch. He's an experienced driver. With you here, I'm not afraid," Grace replied with a gentle smile. It would be an exaggeration to say that he was afraid. It was just that riding in a car was too novel, and Gregory was a little nervous. Fortunately, Snake drove home smoothly and did not deliberately speed to scare Gregory. The moment she alighted, Gu Mengmeng's phone rang. The caller ID indicated that it was Bailon. Gu Mengmeng didn't think much and directly picked it up. "Hello, Bailon. You miss me so soon." Gu Mengmeng's joke was met with a creepy sneer on the other end of the phone. That sneer was modified by a voice changer. Chapter 1638. If you want to save your good friend, come to the unfinished building in the northern suburbs alone. If you dare to bring one more person, I will push them down to their deaths in front of you." With that, before Gu Mengmeng could reply, the call was cut off. When Gu Mengmeng called back, it was a reminder that the phone was switched off. Gu Mengmeng panicked. She looked at Snake and Gregory, not knowing what to do. "This is kidnapping, we can report it to the police." Snake replied calmly. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said with a sobbing tone, "Didn't you hear what she said just now? If one more person goes, she will push Bailon down." Snake held Gu Mengmeng's shoulders with both hands and said, "Don't panic, Gregory and I will go with you. We will definitely help you save Bailon." But she said, "Are the two of us humans?" Snake smiled devilishly and asked Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng choked. She looked at Snake and then at Gregory and shook her head. A snake, a bird, not human, they were not human. "So, we can go." Snake hugged Gu Mengmeng and said, "Don't worry, don't be afraid. We said we won't let you cry again, so we won't let you cry again." Gu Mengmeng was comforted by Snake's hug. She nodded and felt more at ease. Snake placed her back in the car and went straight to the unfinished building in the northern city. The unfinished building in the north city was originally meant to be a villa, but who knew that halfway through the construction, the boss lost all his money in gambling and ran away. The building was left unfinished. Usually, many drug addicts would gather here to have a good time, and those delinquents who thought they were cool and awesome would often gather here to fight or have sex. Anyway, this was the most filthy place in S City. Children from decent families would not come here. And it was naturally Gu Mengmeng's first time stepping into such a place. It was just evening and it was not the time for those people to move around. The walls of this dilapidated villa were filled with non-mainstream graffiti such as skulls. Burnt petrol barrels, cigarette butts and condoms were the main rubbish here. Snake parked the car outside the unfinished building. He did not let Gu Mengmeng enter directly, but gave Gregory a look. Gregory understood and shrugged his shoulders, transforming into a bird and flying into the night sky against the sunset glow. At a sufficient height, nothing in the unfinished building could escape Gregory's eyes. He circled around once and locked onto a location. He flew back to Mengmeng's side and said, "In that building, I saw the shoes that Zhang Jinqing wore today. There's smoke coming from the 4th floor, but it doesn't seem like a bonfire because it's very thin and faint." "All right, then I'm going in." Snake smiled and said, "Tu Meng, who are you going to call to help you later?" Gu Mengmeng pushed Snake and said, "Bailon is still inside, I am not in the mood to joke around." Snake hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin and said, "I'm not joking either. I admit that I lost to Elvis, but if you dare to be the last to call me, I will eat them." Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. She could only nod and say, all right, I got it. I'm going in first." Snake leaned against the car door and waved his hand, saying, "Go on, Pikachu." Chapter 1639. According to the coordinates given by Gregory, Gu Mengmeng accurately found where Bailon and the rest were. Looking up, she saw a vulture hovering above her head at a height of 6,000 meters. She did not even need to think to know who it was. Gregory's speed was extremely fast, and he would only need about 4 seconds to dive down. That meant that if she was pushed down from the 4th floor, Gregory would be able to catch her before she hit the ground from a height of 6,000 meters. So, what was there to be afraid of? Gu Mengmeng hummed a tune as she walked step by step to the bottom of the villa. The shape of the walls had already been completed, but it was still rough. There were no windows or doors, and there were no handrails for the stairs. It looked tattered, and it was hard to imagine that this was originally a high-end residential area targeted at the wealthiest people. There were no obstructions along the way to the 4th floor, but having lived in the beast world for so many years, Gu Mengmeng still had some of the sharp senses of an orc. Of course, it was not as sharp as Elvis, Leah and Snake, but she still had the basic ability to sense things. There seemed to be 5 or 6 people lying in ambush around the villa. From the moment she entered the villa, they quietly followed behind her. When she went up to the second floor, one of the 5 or 6 people stayed behind to guard the door, probably to keep a lookout, while the rest followed her upstairs. Obviously, they were afraid that she would run away, and were prepared to surround her. TSK, they really had no sense of danger, unable to differentiate who was the hunter and who was the prey. Gu Mengmeng pretended that she did not notice them, and continued humming a tune as she walked up the stairs. The people lying in ambush also felt that Gu Mengmeng's state was not right at first, but after a closer look, she really came alone. The man who sent her here was standing by the roadside, and did not enter the estate with her at all. So they analyzed Gu Mengmeng's humming posture as she walked up the stairs to boost her courage, pretending to be calm and acting mysterious. When she reached the 4th floor, she saw Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing tied to a folding chair, back to back. Their arms were tied together, and it was impossible for them to help each other untie the ropes. Both of their legs were tied to the legs of the chair, and the edges of the ropes were stained with blood, showing how tightly they were tied. 2 people who couldn't move were suspended in the air by iron chains. The chains swayed slightly and made a sharp and ear-piercing sound. Gu Mengmeng frowned and her heart twitched. When she first went to the beast world, she felt that the sharp claws and fangs of the orcs were too scary, but when she returned to the modern world, she understood, when humans are ruthless, they are much scarier than ferocious beasts. Gu Mengmeng. Bai Lan's face was covered in blood and she could not open her eyes. She could vaguely make out a figure and called out in a weak voice. Gu Mengmeng frowned and chuckled, replying, "Yeah, Bai Lan, I'm here to save you, don't be afraid." That sentence was like pouring a bowl of water into a boiling pot of oil. Bai Lan immediately struggled and shouted with all her might, "Run! You idiot! What are you doing here? Don't you know how to call the police? She asked you to come, so you came. Run! Run back immediately!" Chapter 1640. Ah! A low growl was heard. It was a man's voice. Zhang Jinqing. Bai Lan panicked and shouted anxiously. "I'm fine, Bai Lan, don't worry. I'm fine." Zhang Jinqing's voice was extremely weak. When they kidnapped Bai Lan, he had fought with them with all his might. Although he was a member of the basketball team and had a better physique than them, a fierce tiger could not fight against a pack of wolves. How could 2 fists fight against 4 hands? Moreover, there were more than 10 of them and they were all armed. By the time he defeated 3 or 4 of them, he was already riddled with injuries. In the end, all he could do was protect Bai Lan with all his might and try his best not to let her get hurt. Just now, he had used up the last of his energy to turn their bodies to the back of Bai Lan, while his calf was hit hard by that woman. The bones in his calf were probably broken. Basketball, he might not be able to play in the future. But the moment the pain spread throughout his entire body, the first thought that came to his mind was, luckily she was not the one in pain. You're really a Casanova. The woman laughed sarcastically. Zhang Jinqing spat out the blood in his mouth and said, "Maybe I stayed with Snake for too long and didn't learn basketball skills. I learned some infatuation. I'm not a Casanova, but as long as I, Zhang Jinqing, am still breathing, I will not let you hurt a single hair on Bai Lan." The woman paused when she heard Snake's name. Then, she gritted her teeth and turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. Her gaze was colder than a poisonous scorpion's. "The person in Snake's heart, since he dotes on you so much, why did he let you come here alone?" I think you're just a so-so." As the woman spoke, she walked towards Gu Mengmeng. She dragged the wooden stick on the ground and made a slight scraping sound. Gu Mengmeng did not waste her 5 years in the beast world. Her background might not be as good as the orcs, but against the modern people, even a boxing champion might not have much chance of winning against her. After all, her sparring partners in the beast world were all ferocious beasts who were kings of the mountains. However, before they started fighting, Gu Mengmeng felt that there was a need to clarify some questions, so she retracted her gaze from Bailan and looked at the woman approaching her. She asked calmly, "But, who are you?" The woman paused and stared at Gu Mengmeng in disbelief. She realized that Gu Mengmeng had a blank and calm look on her face, and it was obvious that she really did not know her. Ha! Ha ha ha! Who am I? You ruined my family, and now you're asking me who I am. Ha ha ha! What could be more cruel than someone who was so jealous that they almost became a demon, but the other party didn't even remember who you were? Me? Gu Mengmeng pointed at her own nose, feeling wronged. She had just transmigrated back this morning and had been attending classes in the morning. In the afternoon, she went to the club with Snakel. She had just returned home when she was called here before even entering the house. She did not mind destroying the family of this woman who had hurt Bailan, but she needed time to work on the case. Gu Mengmeng. Go and die, you should go and die. As the woman said that, she suddenly pounced towards Gu Mengmeng and smashed the wooden stick in her hand down. Gu Mengmeng tilted her body and easily dodged the woman's attack. Having seen so many fights between Elvis and Snakel, this woman's movements were as slow as a snail's. Gu Mengmeng kicked the woman's ankle with one foot and grabbed her wrist with the other. She twisted it hard and the wooden stick in the woman's hand fell to the ground. Aside from the topic, clap for student Xiaozhan. Bravery does not mean that you are invincible. It means that even though you are clearly afraid, you still stood in front of me to protect me. Chapter 1641. Gu Mengmeng caught the wooden stick and slung it over her shoulder. As she smiled sideways, the woman fell to the ground like a dog eating **T. Gu Mengmeng even gave her a person with a wicked sense of humor. Bam! Ah! The woman screamed. She covered her wound with one hand and curled up on the ground, not daring to move. Yes, her wrist holding the wooden stick was crushed by Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng really did not do it on purpose. She just wanted to snatch the wooden stick from her hand, but, she did not control her strength properly. This was an accident, really an accident. But even though it was an accident, Gu Mengmeng did not feel apologetic. She had beaten up Bailan and Enchanting so badly. Even if she killed her now, it would not be enough to appease her hatred. What more breaking a wrist? After fiddling with the wooden stick for a while, Gu Mengmeng felt bored and directly threw it out of the windowsill. A wave of scolding came from downstairs. Gu Mengmeng thought, she might have hit the one on the lookout downstairs. This was just a coincidence, really. Even if she had aimed, she would not have been able to throw it so accurately. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. Then, she walked towards Bailan and Enchanting, wanting to undo the metal chains binding them. Bailan was so shocked by Gu Mengmeng's move that she could not speak for a long time. When she saw that crazy woman pouncing towards Gu Mengmeng, her heart almost jumped out of her throat. But seeing how Gu Mengmeng easily neutralized the woman's attack and flipped her over in the blink of an eye, Bailan finally heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at Gu Mengmeng who was walking towards her and said, "You're really good. You hid your strength well." Even I was fooled, Gu Mengmeng smiled without saying a word. How was she going to explain? Say that she had transmigrated to another world and lived with werewolves, foxes, and snakes for a few years, so her skills improved by leaps and bounds, comparable to Tarzan of the Apes. As long as Bailan was not crazy, she would not believe it. Chick! Gu Mengmeng had just touched the metal chains when a ruffian's voice sounded from behind her. Gu Mengmeng turned back. The scene was rather unbearable. The woman whose wrist was crushed by Gu Mengmeng was dragged behind a barrel of gasoline to perform some indescribable acts. The man would pinch her injured wrist from time to time and become even more excited as he listened to her miserable cries. The man who called out to Gu Mengmeng seemed to be used to it. But when he saw Gu Mengmeng's gaze, he scolded in a joking manner, "Tisk, can't you wait till you are done with your business before getting high? You can't even hold it in for a while, trash." "Brother Meng, it's time for him to eat," so he added some food. "Don't bother about them, let's get down to business." A lackey came forward and whispered into Brother Meng's ear. "Is it time for dinner?" "It's only 5:00. What time for dinner?" Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment. Then, she saw the strange expression on the man's face and understood, he was a drug addict. Brother Meng seemed to have expected this to happen. He ignored the lackeys and directly said to Gu Mengmeng, "Girl, we just want money, not lives. We have no intention of meddling in the grievances between you and that slut. We just want to make friends with you and borrow some money to spend." Ah, an old line of blackmail. TSK, what era was this? Korean dramas were already about amnesia, car accidents and leukemia. Yet, they still wanted to make friends and borrow some money. Not even changing their tactics. Chapter 1642. Once Gu Mengmeng said that, Brother Meng started laughing. His laugh was rather wretched, as if he was laughing at Gu Mengmeng's innocence and ignorance. "What can I do? I, your brother, still want to be friends with you." As Brother Meng said, he walked towards Gu Mengmeng. His face was clearly shriveled up, obviously influenced by the person beside him who was having a meal and had some lewd thoughts. Whether she could defeat this Brother Meng was one thing, but to fight against him was another. Gu Mengmeng was especially aware of how sensitive the noses of the few people in her family were. If she was stained with the scent of another man, they could destroy the earth, so Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly and said, "I really can't stop you if you want to die." With that, Gu Mengmeng punched her own collarbone hard, then grabbed her chest and twisted her ear. Brother Meng looked at Gu Mengmeng and thought that she was crazy, so he was stunned for a moment. But before he could react, a white light suddenly flashed beside Gu Mengmeng and three ferocious beasts appeared. A huge black wolf opened its mouth wide and bared its fangs at them. Its green eyes were filled with bloodlust and cruelty. A snake as thick as a train's skin crushed the ground of the villa and broke through the roof. Its huge body circled around the villa and all of them were trapped by the snake's body. Snake scales glowed faintly in green light all around them and the sound of friction made one's hair stand on end. The few men were so scared that they fell to the ground. The more timid ones peed their pants on the spot. And that innocent little person was nestled in the tail of a white and fluffy fox. She looked like a soul-seducing dodgy smiling like a flower as she watched Baigan's heart being gouged out. "See, I told you. My man doesn't like me to be friends with other men. You just had to throw yourself at him. It won't be easy even if one wants to spare your life." Gu Mengmeng stood up from Li's arms and patted his back. "Help me put them down first, then use the fox seductive fragrance to make them forget what they saw today." Leah nodded. Then, he waved his large tail and transformed into a human in front of everyone, leaving only one hand that looked like a fox's claw. With a wave, the metal chains were cut apart like tofu skin that could not withstand a single blow. Leah quickly untied the ropes on by Lan and Zhang Jinqing, then followed Gu Mengmeng's instructions and used the fox seductive fragrance to hypnotize them. Seeing that Leah had transformed into a human, Brother Meng was the first to react. He ran backwards in fear. "Mother! Monster!" Gu Mengmeng turned back and looked at the person who was still swaggering around. She chuckled and said, "Demon. You knew they were monsters, yet you still shouted. If you shout so loudly, do you think you can run away?" Brother Mang was as cowardly as a dog. He knelt down in front of Gu Meng Meng and kowtowed. Great aunt, my dear great aunt. Spare me, we just wanted to get some money to spend. The idea was all that slut mo funds. She wanted to kidnap your friends to force you out. Then, all the injuries on my friends were caused by her alone. Gu Meng Meng looked down at him and asked coldly. Chapter 1643. Leah did not do anything else in Europe for the past week, just researching on medical skills. He knew that he had to wait for Gu Meng Meng to find him or call him over, but if he did nothing and just waited, he would go crazy, so he shifted all his attention to his studies. He did not allow himself to have a moment of leisure, which resulted in the results of his 7 days of study being very obvious. Coupled with his own medical foundation, he quickly diagnosed Zhang Jin Chang's injuries. It's not convenient for me to check on that little female, but this male, his leg is broken, 4 of his ribs are broken, his head is obviously injured, there are 27 external injuries on his body and 19 bruises. Using your words here, it's called a body with cuts and bruises all over, right? Gu Meng Meng chuckled. Good, very good. Gu Meng Meng waved at Elvis, calling him to her side. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck gently. You don't have to do anything to these trash, even biting them to death would dirty your mouth. Yes, yes, yes. Great aunt, you're really right. Brother Mang had long been scared out of his wits by Elvis's green eyes. The pressure from staring at a ferocious beast was really not something to joke about. Gu Meng Meng pointed at the few people lying on the ground. The few of you, listen up. Out of everyone here, I will only allow one person to leave alive. You guys, do as you see fit. Upon hearing that, the gangsters only took 2 to 3 seconds to react. They then immediately picked up their weapons and attacked the people around them. This was human. In front of a strong enemy, they would never unite as one. They did not even dare to attack Elvis, Snake and the rest. They immediately brandished their weapons and attacked their equally weak companions. Gu Meng Meng laughed coldly. She had respect for human lives, but, survival of the fittest, the winner gets to eat alone. She was no longer the Gu Meng Meng who had just arrived in the beast world, who would value life regardless of right or wrong. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll eliminate them completely. The gangsters, who were in a frenzy of killing, each attack was more ruthless than the previous one. After about 20 minutes, the scene where there were more than 10 people just now had turned into a bloody mess. He looked at Gu Meng Meng and said, I survived, can I go now? Gu Meng Meng recognized him. He was the lackey who had been following Brother Meng just now. He seemed to have a good relationship with Brother Meng, so Brother Meng trusted him very much. When the fight started, he even stuck his back to him, planning to work together to save his life. But Brother Meng definitely didn't expect that the first blow that landed on his head was from his lackey. Gu Meng Meng nodded and made a please gesture. The lackey took 2 steps back and stopped beside Snake's body. He turned around and looked at Gu Meng Meng with a face full of blood. Gu Meng Meng smiled. Snake. Snake transformed into a human lazily and walked to Gu Meng Meng's side. He wiped her little face and said, That's it. You've called out the 3 beast kings, but you won't let us take action. Gu Meng Meng smiled and said, They are too dirty, I can't bear to dirty your hands. Elvis also transformed into a human and carried her up from the ground. I felt the pain from the mark and thought something had happened to you. Chapter 1644. Yes, summon. A special ability possessed by the partner of a beast king. When the female felt extreme fear, or when the mating mark was attacked, no matter where the partner of a beast king was, he would be summoned to the female's side by the mating mark. And this buff was activated when Gu Meng Meng stepped down as the messenger of the beast deity. Every messenger of the beast deity could leave behind a buff for the beast world when she stepped down to become a beast deity, and the one Wang Xiaoxin left behind back then allowed the males of a beast king level to enter the dreamland. It went without saying who she was waiting for. And Gu Mingming's buff was Li's idea. Because Wang Xiaoxin's departure took away all the additional abilities from Gu Mengmeng. She was a weak little female and needed protection, and the three of them were too afraid of any accidents happening to Gu Mengmeng. So Li's suggestion was unanimously approved by the males in the family, and Gu Mengmeng herself did not have any special thoughts, so she went along with them. But she did not expect that the ultimate move that she did not use in the beast world would be used on a few hooligans. But it did not matter, after all, she could save on 2 plane tickets. Elvis was appeased by Gu Mingming's "I miss you." He kissed Gu Mingming's little face, then pointed at the fainted group and asked, "How do we deal with them? They look like they are still breathing, do we need to bite them to death?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "No need, just call the police." Elvis nodded and did not say a word, just accompanying Gu Mengmeng to sit at the side. At this moment, Gregory flew in from the window with a huge box in his hands. Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory, confused. Gregory handed the box to Snake, who opened it to reveal that it was filled to the brim with US dollars. Gu Mengmeng was flabbergasted. Snake threw the box to the side, then stroked Gu Mingming's hair and said, "Since you don't wish to dirty our hands, then we can only let them receive the legal punishment of the human world. After all, those who offended my 2 men cannot be let off easily no matter what." So, Snake gently pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, "They kidnapped Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing. The police can verify the process by investigating the surveillance cameras along the way. Then, he would call you and threaten you to come alone." This is also very simple. Just check the call records. I called you here to extort money from you. After all, you are the CEO of Monsieur Group and the future daughter-in-law of the royal family of F country. You are very valuable. That's why I'm here to deliver the money. It's a pity that they couldn't divide the spoils evenly and had internal strife. Gu Mengmeng laughed softly. This box of money is the evidence. Snakel smiled and nodded. My father made it very clear before he left. Whoever dares to bully you will be challenging the dignity of the F country's royal family and destroying the diplomatic relations between the 2 countries. Gu Mengmeng said, "What if they tell others that they saw you guys transform?" Snake's eyes flashed and he laughed. "If this gets out, people will only think that they overdosed on drugs and hallucinated, right? Tell me, if you were a police officer, would you believe the crazy words of a kidnapper and drug addict?" Chapter 1645. To be honest, as a modern local, Gu Mengmeng was not as knowledgeable as an outsider like Snake. Or rather, Gu Mengmeng was a commoner living at the bottom of society. Even if she was as scheming as Snake, she would not be able to produce such a huge box of US dollars as evidence. She would also not be able to use the word diplomatic relations to force the government to settle this matter according to their wishes. All the hooligans would not be able to escape from forced detoxification and jail time. But, Gu Mingming's gaze landed on the woman who was curled up behind the barrel of gasoline. Her body was covered in bruises and her clothes could not cover her body. Her messy hair and bloodstains at the corner of her lips were all signs of what she had just experienced. The wrist that was crushed by Gu Mengmeng was dangling at a weird angle on her knee. Her pupils were dilated and it was obvious that she was frightened by the scene just now. Come to think of it, if it was anyone else, they would also be frightened. Didn't Gu Mengmeng faint on the spot the first time she saw Snake's original body? As for this woman, she had seen the main bodies of all 3 orcs at once without any warning. She was already very courageous to just stand there blankly and not die on the spot. You don't remember her? Snake followed Gu Mingming's gaze and asked. Gu Mengmeng did not answer Snake's question. Instead, she turned to look at Snake and asked in confusion, "Should I know her?" Snake chuckled and said, "You must not have been paying attention when you were watching television with Wang Xiaoxin." Gu Mingming's face was wooden and she did not reply. Snake said, "During the gathering after the press conference, the one who locked you in the toilet and splashed a basin of water on you." Yes, Snake had completely forgotten about the incident where Gu Mengmeng straddled her and slapped her. He only remembered that this woman bullied his Tu Meng. Now that Snake mentioned it, Gu Mengmeng remembered that it had indeed happened. "But, she was the one who provoked me first. I only slapped her a few times. Did she have to kidnap Bailon to kill me?" Gu Mengmeng was confused. Snake took out his cell phone from his pocket and opened a few popular news websites. He searched for news related to the MO group and passed it to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng swiped her cell phone twice and her facial features turned on the emoji pack mode. She grimaced as she read a few of the headlines, then looked at Snake and asked, "These were made by you?" Snake shook his head, determined not to take the blame. "It's not me, it's the assistant who did it. But the result is still satisfactory. This assistant can be promoted, get a raise, and get a good car." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. How should I put it? It wasn't that she was a saint, but at the end of the day, this young lady of the MO family was just a little arrogant and willful. She had poured a basin of water over her head, that was all. Moreover, she immediately fought back. Strictly speaking, she really did not suffer any losses. It was indeed wrong of Mo Fan to capture Bailon and Zhang Jinqing and beat them up, but it was also because of Snake's ruthlessness. No one could say who was right and who was wrong. It was a complete mess. Chapter 1646. You want me to repay evil with good? But Tu Meng, repay evil with good, how can I repay good? Snake's face was cold. He was not willing to let off anyone who dared to provoke Gu Mengmeng. He could not even bear to touch a finger on the person he cherished dearly, so how could she be bullied by others? Yes, the one in the toilet was not the real Gu Mengmeng, but an illusory image. But the illusory image was also Snake's illusory image. She was the treasure he cherished dearly and anyone who dared to touch her would die. Elvis was also in the illusion when Gu Mengmeng was drenched in water. He had accompanied Gu Mengmeng to the end, so he knew what had happened. When Snake reminded Gu Mengmeng who that woman was, Elvis's face darkened. The two males who had been fighting for the position of the first partner for so many years actually reached a high level of tacit understanding and unity on this matter. I feel that Snake is right, Xiao Meng. Being kind to your enemy is being cruel to yourself. If you don't remove the roots, the weeds will grow again. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt very helpless. The cause of this incident was just Mo Fan being cheap. She clearly had a fiancé but still had her sights set on Snake, so she drenched Gu Mengmeng with water. This kind of method used by junior high school students to ostracize their female classmates could not even be considered as childish, let alone bullying. Even if they really bullied Gu Mengmeng, the Mo family had already paid a sufficient price. If they continued to force her, the news tomorrow would probably be old Master Mo jumping off a building. Gu Mengmeng cast her gaze at Leah. Leah smiled knowingly and waved his large tail. Did you all not understand Gu Mengmeng's meaning? Elvis and Snake glanced sideways at Leah. They had no choice even if they did not want to admit it. Among the four males in the family, Leah was the one who was the best at understanding Gu Mengmeng's thoughts. Leah swayed his large tail as he walked to Gu Mengmeng's side. As he placed his tail into her arms, he smiled slyly at Mo Fan and said, that Mo family should have been completely suppressed by you to the point where they have nowhere else to go, unable to withstand a single blow, and are just waiting for death. They must have lost all hope and given up struggling, waiting for death to come. Snake nodded. The Fan family was the last hope of the Mo family, but what Fan Yuanbin did was too extreme. That was practically the last straw that broke the camel's back. Now, the Mo family was just waiting for death as Leah had described. Even if there was still half a day of hope, Mo Fan wouldn't dare to do such a thing. This was clearly an act of mutual destruction. Stupid, but also sad. Leah shrugged his shoulders, as if he had thought of something interesting. He continued, "They want to die, so you let them die." Could it be that after following Meng Meng as a beast god for a few years, you've really become a god who loves the world and is compassionate? Snake paused for a moment and suddenly smiled. The corners of his lips curled upwards as he said, "You bullied my two Meng. Do you want to die? How can it be that cheap?" Elvis did not understand and just frowned at the two sinister people in front of him. After a moment of silence, he said, "You two are in charge of coming up with ideas, I am only in charge of executing." Snake looked at Elvis and said, "You don't have to do anything, that little assistant of mine is quite capable." Chapter 1647. When the police arrived, they saw the floor littered with hooligans on their last breaths, Mo Fan who was in a state of rags, Gu Meng Meng who was safe and sound in Snake's arms, and the bodyguard Gregory who was sent by the F Kingdom's prince to protect the future princess, who had been exposed in various media reports in the early morning. Bai Lan and Enchanting were escorted by Elvis and Leah to the hospital, where there were people arranged by Snake to receive them. Actually, it was not a big problem even without Elvis and Leah, but they were summoned by Gu Meng Meng using the mating mark and did not have any records of entering the country. It would be troublesome if they appeared suddenly, so they accompanied Bai Lan and Enchanting to the hospital. Gu Meng Meng followed the script that Snake had arranged and explained it to the police. The police were all scared out of their wits. However, Gu Meng Meng changed Mo Fan's part slightly. From the kidnapper to the helper. She said that Mo Fan was bullied by the hooligans because he wanted to protect her, and if not for Mo Fan, she would have been the one being bullied. So in the end, Mo Fan was not brought away by the police, but was sent back to the Mo family by Snake's men. And the only lackey who left the unfinished building, alive, became the wanted target of the police, and was identified as the mastermind of this kidnapping. He was the scapegoat, but he could not shake off this blame. Because he had indeed participated in the kidnapping, and it was not the first time he had killed someone, so it was not wrong for him to be wanted. And the video of Mo Fan kidnapping Bai Lan and Enchanting was also sent back to the Mo family. These videos were all taken down by Snake, and other than Snake, the police did not have a single one in their hands. Only Gu Meng Meng and Snake's confession could be used as evidence. There was no choice, because the words of those hooligans after they woke up could not be trusted. What giant wild wolf, snake as thick as a trained skin, TSK, their brains were really full of holes from all the drugs they drank. None of them were normal. In the end, they were all sent to the drug rehabilitation center for forced detoxification. And old Master Mo did not even wait for the next day. That very night, he led a group of men and women from the Mo family to the villa Gu Meng Meng was staying in. Snake did not seem to be surprised at all. He just sat on the main seat of the sofa like a king, playing with Gu Meng Meng's fingers out of boredom, leaving the entire Mo family standing in front of him at a loss of what to do. With a plop, old Master Mo's body bent and he directly knelt on the ground, saying, "Since you're willing to bury that vile spawn's deeds and protect her by sending her back to the Mo clan, it's clear that you don't really intend to exterminate the Mo clan. As long as you can leave a way out for our family, no matter what you want to do, we won't say anything." Gu Meng Meng felt extremely uncomfortable being kneeled by someone who could be her grandfather. She wanted to help Grandfather Mo up, but Snake held her waist and whispered into her ear, "In front of me, he doesn't have the right to flaunt his seniority. You are my woman. You have a very high status." Gu Meng Meng kept quiet. Snake should be 2,000 years old by now, in front of him, old Master Mo, who was over 70 years old, could be called a little fresh meat. But this little fresh meat had the face of an old man. Gu Mengmeng still felt uncomfortable. Chapter 1648. The Mo family. The Mo family was now in a terrible mess, riddled with holes. Snakel said he wanted something that others might not even want even if they offered it to others. Was it clear that he was willing to let the Mo family off? Elder Mo was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly got his family members to help him up from the ground. Only when Elder Mo stood up did the rest of the Mo family dare to stand up as well. Elder Mo sat on the sofa. His 70 years of life had given him a wealth of experience. Even though he could not see through the thoughts of this man in front of him, he could tell that he doted on and accommodated that young girl. So the Mo family could be revived and receive this amnesty was probably because that young girl was magnanimous and was willing to let the Mo family off this once. Without saying anything else, Elder Mo smiled at Gu Mengmeng and nodded. It was a small action, but it was obvious how much gratitude he was showing. Snakel did not like other men to size up Gu Mengmeng, even if they were like a withered old cucumber. She was only 70 years old and this kind of fresh meat was very dangerous. He had to guard her with all his might. Who knew what was wrong with Gu Mengmeng that she would suddenly like ugly and wrinkled men? Frowning, Snakel glared at Elder Mo and said, "Since you have sat down, does that mean you agree to my purchase of the Mo family?" "Agree, of course I agree." Elder Mo did not dare to object. "Then is there anything else?" Snakel was obviously asking them to leave. Elder Mo was taken aback. This verbal agreement was enough. Would Snakel suddenly change his mind tomorrow and not want the Mo family anymore? This young man, he always did whatever he wanted. What kind of person was Snakel? Elder Mo's thoughts were as clear to him as the monk's scar on his head. As long as one was not blind, he would be able to see it clearly. "My assistant will bring a team of lawyers to the Mo family tomorrow to negotiate," Snakel said calmly. Elder Mo then relaxed and smiled apologetically. "Since that's the case, we shall not disturb you any further. Goodbye, goodbye." Snakel gestured for them to leave but did not even have the intention to stand up. After the Mo family left the villa, Snake didn't let go of Gu Mengmeng and just carried her upstairs. As he went upstairs, he sent a message to his assistant. 2 sentences, take over the Mo group tomorrow morning, and first floor of the villa, new sofa set. Yes, how could he let his 2 men sit on a sofa that another man had sat on? Gu Mingming's room was in the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. Snake had predicted from the start that Gu Mengmeng would not agree to stay in his room when she moved in, so he just emptied the master bedroom and stayed in the 2nd bedroom. However, anyway, he would not stay for long. After all, he had planned to stay in Gu Mingming's room from the start. Now that they had become partners, it was even more justifiable for him to avoid it. He naturally carried Gu Mengmeng back to the main nest. His eyebrows twitched. Initially, when he designed such a spacious master bedroom, it was not to accommodate so many people. Leo laid sideways on the side of the king-size bed. He swayed his tail seductively and smiled at Gu Mengmeng with a beauty that could cause the downfall of nations and people. He opened his mouth and said, "Mengmeng, this bed has your scent, it smells so good." Gu Mengmeng blushed strangely. It was just a normal sentence, why did Leah make it sound so ambiguous? Aside from the topic. Chapter 1649. Mengmeng, you have given me the cold shoulder for a week, aren't you going to comfort me? Leah used his elbow to support his head and reached out a finger to beckon at Gu Mengmeng. That coquettish and charming look was like the reincarnation of Daji, destined to captivate the masses with his bewitching looks. After seeing that face for so many years, Gu Mengmeng was still not immune to it. Wiping away her saliva, Gu Mengmeng pounced at him and hugged him. She rubbed her face against Li's chest and said, "How is it a week? Didn't we transmigrate together in the morning?" Leah pinched Gu Mingming's face and said, "Snake made some minor adjustments to our transmigration points. Although we transmigrated together, we arrived here a week earlier than you guys." Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Snake and wanted to ask why. But before she could open her mouth, Snake replied, "They need time to adapt to the life here, so as to avoid causing you any trouble." Gu Mengmeng did not understand. Li's chin rested lightly on Gu Mingming's furry little head. He wrapped his large arms around Gu Mingming's waist and wrapped his fluffy and white large tail around Gu Mingming's waist for her to hug. When Gu Mengmeng was in his arms, Li's voice was always lazy and a little hoarse and casual. He said, "Snake was a normal person in the past, but now, he, Elvis and Gregory are complete bodies that transmigrated from the beast world. The most basic thing is, the four of us cannot enter the hospital. So this week, I improved the medical skills I learned from the television to ensure that I can handle any special situation." Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Leah with some heartache. Her small hands caressed Li's face and she said, "Actually, you don't have to work so hard." She did not want to admit it, but this was just an illusion. If there was an emergency, they could leave any time. That grassland was now their stability in the modern world. Leah knew what Gu Mengmeng was thinking. He caressed the back of Gu Mingming's head with his fingertips and kissed the top of her head. He said, "If this place can make your life more comfortable, there's nothing wrong with us staying here. As long as you are here, to me, anywhere is home." "Thank you." Gu Mengmeng was extremely touched. She rubbed her little face against Li's chest and whimpered like a kitten. Silly girl. Even Leah himself did not realize how much love and indulgence was contained in those two words. At that time, he thought that his heart would never beat again. He thought that there was only scheming, hatred, and revenge left in his life. It was this little thing who stumbled into his trap and turned his world upside down. It was also because of this that the sunlight shone into the dark corner where he was curled up, and that cold heart gradually resumed beating. Only he, who had crawled out of the darkness, knew how much he longed for warmth and light. Especially after losing her, he would never forget the feeling of falling from the warm sun into an ice cave. At that time, every tear she shed and every heartless word she said was a warning to him for the rest of his life. He would never let her suffer again. That was his promise to himself. Elvis scooped Gu Mengmeng out from Li's arms and chuckled. "I am the first partner. With me around, when was it your turn to hug Xiaomeng?" Aside from the topic. Chapter 1650. Leah rolled his eyes at Elvis in a tsundere manner and snorted. Without saying anything else, he rolled around on the bed and hugged Gu Mingming's pillow to take a deep breath. Then, he looked at Gu Mengmeng with a dubious smile. Elvis placed Gu Mengmeng on the chair beside the dressing table and looked at her reflection in the mirror. "I saw it in Europe, do you like it?" Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and saw a European bronze wooden comb in Snake's hands. She smiled and asked, "Why did you think of giving me a wooden comb?" Elvis said, "When we went to Solder to participate in the beauty pageant the first year, you said you wanted a rhinoceros horn comb. It's a pity you didn't even make one after breaking off so many beast horns from Oriton." If Elvis had not mentioned this, Gu Mengmeng would have long forgotten about it. But looking at Elvis's expression, it was obvious that he had kept it in his heart and felt that he had disappointed Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng smiled and took the comb from Elvis. "It's very pretty. I like it very much." "Thank you. Let me help you comb your hair." Elvis's gaze was gentle. Gu Mengmeng nodded and sat down obediently. Snake leaned against the door and watched Elvis comb Gu Mingming's hair. He asked with a faint smile, "Did you buy this comb? Do you have money?" Gu Meng Meng clearly felt Elvis pause in his combing action. He suddenly looked up at Snake and then back at Gu Meng Meng. His face was filled with confusion. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. That. Elvis, don't tell me you took it from someone else without paying. That's right, how could there be a concept of buying and selling in the beast world? If I like it, I will just snatch it. If you are not happy, you can snatch it back. Elvis shook his head and said, the money was paid by someone else. Someone else. Gu Meng Meng caught onto an important point and asked in confusion. Elvis nodded and said, there was a male who had a lot of these combs. I challenged him and said that if I won, he would give me this comb, but he rejected. And then. Gu Mingming's heart was in her throat. How could a modern man withstand a beating from a beast king like Elvis? It would be troublesome if someone died because of a comb. Elvis said, then another male walked over and said that if I fought with his men, regardless of the outcome, he would give me this comb. I agreed. Gu Mingming's face was filled with confusion. There were still such warmongers in the modern world. Fight me, and I'll give you a wooden comb. What kind of godly development was this? But Snake just smiled, looking as if he knew it all too well. He asked, lost or won? Elvis frowned and said, the males in this world can't take a beating. Gu Meng Meng stood up immediately and grabbed onto Elvis's arm with both her hands, asking, hubby, did you beat someone to death? Elvis shook his head and said, he didn't die, he just broke an arm. Did you show your original form? Gu Meng Meng asked. Elvis shook his head and said, he punched me, so I grabbed his wrist and wanted to throw him out. The moment I threw him, his arm broke. I don't know either, he looked quite strong, but why are his bones so soft? One pull and it broke. Chapter 1651. It was normal for males to break an arm or a leg during a fight, so Elvis did not take it to heart at first. But after Leah found out about it, he told him that the rules of this world were different from the beast world, and that he might bring trouble to Gu Meng by beating people up like that. Just like what Leah said, this was the world that Gu Meng Meng was familiar with. She lived more comfortably here, so he and Leah hoped that she could stay here as she pleased, and not be forced to end this illusion because of them. Gu Meng Meng turned back to look at Snake, asking, "Ah hell." Snake chuckled and rubbed Gu Mingming's head, saying, "It's alright, didn't he just fight a boxing match in the black market? It's common for people to be beaten to death in this kind of underground competition, so no one would pursue it. Moreover, F country is my territory, as long as he doesn't beat the president to death in public, I can settle everything else." Gu Meng Meng sweated. So, what Snake meant was that it was not that the president could not be beaten to death, as long as it was not in public. Snake looked at Gu Mingming's darkened face, and could not help but smile, saying, all right, even if he beats the president to death in public, I will definitely protect him, is that all right? Don't worry. Gu Meng Meng roared in her heart, you are making me even more worried, all right? No normal person would beat the president to death, all right? If you support them like this, aren't you afraid that Elvis will be even more unbridled in the future? Xiao Meng, don't worry. In the future, I won't beat people up so easily. Elvis coaxed Gu Meng Meng. I'm afraid that's not up to you. Snake walked to Gu Meng Meng with a faint smile, and placed his phone on top of Gu Mingming's makeup box. The phone was playing a video, and the scene was of an underground boxing match. Although his face was blurred out, Gu Meng Meng could recognize that one of the two people on the stage was Elvis. This. Gu Meng Meng was confused. Snakel smiled as he kept his phone and said, the one whose arm was broken by Elvis is the most popular boxing champion in the past 2 years. People call him Boss Black Boxing. Countless boxers have died in his hands. But today, his right arm was crippled by a light toss from Elvis. But the boss behind the scenes is not a righteous person. He has no intention of seeking justice for the black-fished boss. Instead, he offered a huge reward to find out Elvis's whereabouts. It is obvious that he wants to groom him well. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, No, I don't want Elvis to be associated with this kind of person. Snake rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, All right, then I will suppress this news and guarantee that Elvis will not find this person on their information channels. Wait. Elvis frowned as he took Snake's phone and swiped it twice. His brows lightly touched as he stared at it for a long time before turning to look at Gu Mengmeng. In a negotiating tone, he said, Xiao Meng, can you let me fight another round? Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis in confusion and asked, Why? If you want to exercise your muscles, Snake and Leah are good sparring partners. No matter how strong those people in the underground black market are, they are not enough for you to fight. Elvis shook his head and said, No, I don't want to fight, I just want this. Chapter 1652. The boss of the black boxing boss took out an extremely exquisite comb. It was said to be one of the dowries of the first queen of F country. It was inlaid with the world's most perfect ruby, the blazing sun. It was said that this comb could make the woman who owned it extremely blissful. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. A comb could make someone extremely blissful. Why don't you say that the ruby on it is from De Beers Kimberley? A ruby is everlasting, one will be passed down forever. Xiao Meng. Elvis looked serious. Yes, he had obviously eaten this Amway. No. Gu Mengmeng put on a straight face and said, I only need one wooden comb. I don't have the hobby of collecting combs. Moreover, I only have one head and this much hair. How many combs can I use? Hubby, listen to me. This person is obviously lying to you. If you go for this comb this time, he will use some other gimmick comb to entice you to fight again. Fight after fight, it will never end. Elvis pursed his lips. If it could make Xiao Meng happier, it was really nothing to fight. Hubby, you are different from the people here. If you expose yourself too many times, you will definitely attract attention. What if your identity is exposed? I won't. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face. He coaxed and begged, I promise, I won't let anyone discover my identity. I still want to stay here and accompany you to live the life you like. But Xiao Meng, I am a male. I can't hide at home forever and wait for others to provide for me. I have to have my own ability to protect you. Gu Mengmeng choked and could not say a word. Snake had worked hard here for 19 years. With the noble bloodline of the royal family, his social status and wealth naturally went without saying. When Leo was in the beast world, he had already learned many years of medical skills through television. He was naturally intelligent and exceptionally gifted in medical skills. She believed that it would not take long for him to achieve outstanding achievements in the medical field. While Elvis, as the first partner in the family, did not have his own career. She had neglected a man's pride. Be it in the beast world or the modern world, living off a woman was a disgrace to a man. But Gu Mengmeng still felt uneasy. Fighting in an underground fight sounded dangerous no matter how she heard it. Elvis smiled and said, I have the power of a beast king. No one in this world can hurt me. Snake placed his hand on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder lightly and said, with the royal family protecting him, no one would dare to make things difficult for him. Leah also swayed his large tail and sat by the bed. He smiled at Gu Mengmeng in the mirror and said, if I really meet a strong opponent one day and get my arms or legs broken, then I can use them for clinical trials. That's pretty good. Alright, the three of them were on the same team. Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory, who had not said a word. Gregory only smiled and said, I'm just a guardian beast. I don't have the right to question the first partner's decision. Gu Mengmeng sighed and cupped Elvis's face with both hands. Hubby, you have to promise me not to get hurt. All right. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face and this matter was settled. The next morning, Gu Mengmeng packed her things and headed straight to the hospital to visit Bailan and Zhang Jinqing. It was not convenient for Elvis and Leah to appear, so Snake and Gregory accompanied her. Out of topic. Chapter 1653. Girl. The moment the door to the ward opened, Bailan saw Gu Mengmeng. She immediately threw away the apple she was chewing halfway and opened her arms, waiting for Gu Mengmeng to deliver herself to her. Snake was unwilling but had no choice. He could only let go of Gu Mengmeng and watch as Gu Mengmeng threw herself into someone else's arms. How are you? Does it still hurt? Gu Mengmeng hugged Bailan, then pulled a pillow over for her to lean on. Bailan laughed heartlessly and said, I'm fine, but he, glancing sideways at Zhang Jinqing, Bailan blushed and said, he agreed to my proposal. 2 years later, he will have a graduation certificate on his left hand and a marriage certificate on the right. After taking off his academic robes, he will directly wear a wedding dress. What? Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded and completely out of it. Bailan chuckled and said, sorry girl, I might have to abandon you. This man is too stupid. If I don't keep a close eye on him, he will be snatched away by others. So, can you understand me? Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing and said, you are really too much. You are the one, proposing. Why don't you let him do it? Bailan glanced at Zhang Jincheng's knees and said, in this lifetime, I will never let him be afraid of his knees touching the ground again. Gu Mengmeng did not understand and turned to look at Snake. Snake said, when those people kidnapped them yesterday, Zhang Jinqing knelt on the ground and used his body to protect Bailan. After that, Mofen waved the rod in front of you and broke Zhang Jincheng's calf bone. I have already contacted the best doctor and he will be able to walk normally in the future. But when it rains, it will definitely hurt. Gu Mengmeng lowered her eyes and held Bailan's hand, saying, Bailan, I'm sorry, it's all because of me that you guys have been implicated. Silly girl, what are you saying? Bailan pinched Gu Mengmeng. If it wasn't for you, I would never have believed that someone would risk her life for me and not abandon me even under such circumstances. I've been strong for 19 years, and this is the first time I've been protected. Girl, if what Mofen did is related to you, then I should thank you. If it wasn't for this, I might have missed out on the only idiot in my life who values me more than her own life. But Gu Mengmeng looked at Bailan and Zhang Jincheng's white bandages and felt guilty. Bailan raised her arm and smiled. You're talking about this? Come on, you're so pretentious. I have a bad temper, and I spend more time in the hospital than in the dormitory. This injury is nothing. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. That year, when Bailan was beaten up to the point of asking for her salary, she had said the same thing to her. Gu Mengmeng tugged at Bailan's hand. Since you have decided to get married, you cannot be so hot-tempered in the future. You have to think about your man too, don't you? Without you, what will he do? Bailan glanced at Zhang Jinqing, smiled and said, I understand. Zhang Jinqing, who had remained silent from the start, frowned at Bailan's smile. Bailan, your proposal does not count. Chapter 1654. Gu Mengmeng was really at a loss. Were these two really going to get married? Why did she feel like Bailan was going to snatch an innocent man? Zhang Jinqing was not annoyed. He waited for Bailan to finish yelling before narrowing his eyes. Bailan, you're sitting on my wound. It's a little painful, aw. Bailan was shocked. She immediately stood up from Zhang Jin Chang's body and glared down at him. Pain? What pain? You're going to break off the marriage and leave me. Why would I care if it hurts? Although she said that, she did not sit back down. Her careful look was clearly because she was afraid of touching Zhang Jin Chang's wound again. Zhang Jin Chang seemed to be used to her tough mouth but soft heart. He didn't mind that she was standing high up on his bed and looking down at him. He was willing to look up at her. When I recover, I'll still be the one to propose. Zhang Jin Chang said gently. I told you before, I don't have much more than others. But what other women have, I, Zhang Jin Chang's wife, cannot lack. Marriage only happens once in a lifetime. You have to make me beg you to marry me. Only then will you have enough confidence to put on airs when you come to my house. If someone in my family makes things difficult for you when I'm not at home, then you can confidently yell, it was your Zhang Jin Chang who shamelessly begged me to marry him. Only then will you be unyielding and won't be bullied, understand? Bailan's anger instantly subsided. She cleared her throat and jumped down from Zhang Jin Chang's bed. Then, she quietly sat back on the bed and covered herself with the blankets. With a demure expression, she said, if you want to beg, just do it. Why are you so fierce? Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. Zhang Jin Chang fierce. From the beginning to the end, the other party had been speaking softly and softly, while Bailan, on the other hand, was like a female bandit, straddling him like she was going to beat him up. I was wrong. I shouldn't have been fierce to you. Zhang Jin Chang apologized without any principles. Gu Mengmeng was shocked. In the beast world, it was normal for males to compromise like this. But this was the modern world. Other than saying, I can't do anything if you think that way, and the all-purpose golden phrase, drink more hot water, guys could actually do such things. Io. Gu Mengmeng clutched her forehead and looked at Snake, who had knocked her on the head, her eyes filled with accusation. Snake clenched his teeth and scooped Gu Mengmeng up. The visit is over. Let's go back to school. Ha! Gu Mengmeng protested, didn't you say that with you around, no one would dare to record me for skipping class? I still have to accompany Bailan. What's there to accompany? Does she need you to accompany her? You big third wheel. Snake carried Gu Mengmeng away without giving her a chance to explain. Gu Mengmeng thought about it. Snake was right, he really did not need her to accompany him now. After leaving the hospital, Snake shoved Gu Mengmeng into the car. He did not start the car, but stared at Gu Mengmeng with a dark face, as if he wanted to stare 2 holes into her face. What's wrong? Gu Mengmeng felt guilty for no reason. Are you regretting it? Snake narrowed his eyes. Danger filled the entire carriage. What? Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. Snake said, if I hadn't snatched your love letter back then, Zhang Jin Chang would be your boyfriend now, right? Seeing how considerate he is towards Bailan, you regret letting him off, right? Gu Mengmeng held her forehead. The sorrow in her heart flowed like a river. Chapter 1655. Don't play around with your friend's wife. Don't touch your best friend's man. Gu Mengmeng was tired of how her man could not be picky about the brand, origin, year and quality when he got jealous. And Gu Mengmeng's explanation clearly did not satisfy Snake. He squinted his eyes and emitted a dangerous aura. After a while, he suddenly laughed again. With a cold voice, he said, Bailan better be your best friend forever and never break up with Zhang Jin Chang, or else I will eat him up. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and only understood Snake's train of thought after a long while. Don't touch my best friend's man, so as long as Zhang Jin Chang was still Bailan's man, Gu Mengmeng would never touch him. At the same time, if Zhang Jinqing was no longer Bai Lan's man, or if Bai Lan and Gu Mengmeng were no longer best friends, then Gu Mengmeng would touch Zhang Jinqing. Gu Mengmeng sighed. It was really unreasonable to talk to a man who got jealous. Don't worry, my friendship with Bai Lan will last forever. She and Zhang Jinqing will also grow old together. Snake's lips curled up and he said, I hope so. Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing's physique was very good and Snake had specially arranged for the most authoritative doctor from F country to come over. This action alarmed Snake's parents in F country and they called Snake's assistant to find out that Gu Mengmeng had been kidnapped and threatened. They almost fainted from the shock and old mistress cried and wiped her tears, saying that she would arrange for a private jet to fly to S city to bring her precious daughter-in-law back to F country to protect her. Poor parents, although their son was outstanding since young and had a surly and unapproachable character, but he was still their son. After 19 years of coldness, their son finally became more amiable towards them because of this daughter-in-law. God knows how much they treasured this daughter-in-law. Afterwards, Snake sent a video call to his family with a cold face and told them clearly that, don't come. Old mistress was about to cry but Gu Mengmeng snatched Snake's phone and coaxed her gently, saying that she was really fine and not to worry. She even promised to fly to F country to see them once the holidays started. Only then did she finally calm down. After more than 2 months, Bai Lan and Zhang Jinqing finally left the hospital. It was said that it would take 100 days for one's bones and tendons to recover, but Zhang Jinqing had played basketball since he was young, so his physique was much better than the average person. Of course, he could not be compared to perverts like Elvis and Snake. They were not human. The doctor said that Zhang Jinqing could walk normally with this leg, but he definitely couldn't touch basketball anymore. Jumping and other strenuous activities could not be done again. In the future, he would have to pay special attention to his health and not get hurt again. Then, 2 months later, Gu Mengmeng received a call from Zhang Jinqing out of the blue. Without saying anything, he shamelessly begged her to keep Bai Lan in the dormitory for the next 3 days and not let her go out. Then, at 8 p.m., he had to bring her to the basketball court. Gu Mengmeng frowned, realizing that things were not so simple. After experiencing so many things in the beast world, Zhang Jinqing's thoughts were really too obvious. Chapter 1656. Facing 4 pairs of cunning eyes, Gu Mengmeng truly felt wronged. Strictly speaking, she was not the one who wrote this love letter. When this love letter was handed to Zhang Jinqing, she was still lying beside Wang Xiaoxin, calling her daddy. But now, she felt like she could not explain herself. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, I feel that Zhang Jinqing might be calling me to propose to Bai Lan. Why would he call you to propose to Bai Lan? Elvis frowned and asked directly. Before Gu Mengmeng could reply, Leah laughed and said, who knows? Maybe Bai Lan is just a cover and he actually wants to propose to Gu Mengmeng. With that, the temperature in the room dropped to the North Pole. Gu Mengmeng hurriedly waved her hands and said, I swear, shut up. Snake said coldly and angrily, the first rule of the family, you are not allowed to swear. Now you want to break your own family rule for a Zhang Jinqing. Gu Mengmeng choked. Meeting Snake's eyes, she could not say the word swear. Cutting open her chest to take her gallbladder, how heavy was that oath? Sneaking a glance at the silent Gregory, Gu Mengmeng's heart sank when she met Gregory's sorrowful eyes. Broken wings and blind eyes, oaths were not good things, she should not have said it. You don't have to care about me, I am not in a position to express my opinion. Gregory's body shook indiscernibly. Gu Mengmeng was immediately drowned in guilt. Gregory meant that he did not agree, but he did not have the right to disagree. As a guardian, he did not even have the right to be jealous. Xiao Meng. Elvis clenched his fists so tightly that his bones were cracking. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out a sentence, if you want a partner who is the same as you. I can accept it. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis's cheeks bulging, his gums were probably about to bleed from clenching so hard. Gu Mengmeng was really on the verge of breaking down. Heaven knew that she and Zhang Jinqing were as innocent as an unopened A4 paper. That Gu Mengmeng, who liked Zhang Jinqing, was not her. What a generous first mate. However, a male pet like me doesn't have that kind of magnanimity. I was born to be jealous and petty, I can't allow anyone to be more pampered than me by Meng Meng. So, if you want to mate with Meng Meng, sure, but you have to defeat me first. Leo raised his head, giving off a, if he's the only one, attitude. Sure. Gu Mengmeng slapped her thigh and said, how about this, if Zhang Jinqing doesn't propose to Bailon but to me 3 days later, you guys will eat him up on the spot and I will help you prepare waxamy, how about that? Snake, Leah, Elvis and Gregory exchanged glances with one another, before curling their lips in satisfaction and nodding their heads in agreement. Gu Mengmeng finally heaved a sigh of relief. But Bailon is my friend after all. This is probably the only time she will propose in her lifetime. So if Zhang Jinqing needs your help, hell, don't shirk away. Try your best to help him, okay? Snake smiled and said, if the person he proposes to is Bailon, no one in this world would want him to succeed more than the 4 of us. So don't worry, we will grant your request. This matter was settled. Chapter 1657. Io, your snake is suddenly so easygoing today. They actually let you out to accompany me. Bailon looked at Gu Mengmeng, who had suddenly asked her out to go shopping. She smiled playfully. Why? Have your 2 icebergs finally collided and merged into one? Gu Mengmeng blushed. She now seriously felt that it was Bailon who had led her astray when she had first arrived in the beast world. She pinched Bailon's waist and said, Snake is the real CEO of Monster Company after all, doesn't he have to work every day? Bailon, however, did not believe it. She took a sip of her hazelnut frappuccino and said, this semester, ever since the 2 of you started dating in a high-profile manner, when have you ever seen him neglect you because of work? The person who wants to tie you to his belt every day suddenly gives you freedom. TSK, there must be a reason for this abnormality. Although I don't like him, from an objective point of view, he's still a good boyfriend. Silly girl, you have to be more vigilant. Don't let others take advantage of you. If that happens, you won't even have a place to cry. Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. Snake and the rest were busy helping Zhang Jinqing arrange for his marriage proposal, but the one being proposed to was actually suspecting him of cheating. Gu Mengmeng could not betray Zhang Jinqing, so she could only laugh dryly. What are you afraid of, have you forgotten? Snake has already transferred the Monster Company to me. I am now a true rich lady in S City. Bailon chuckled and said, all right, then my dream has come true. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and smiled, what dream? Bailon, one day, when our girl becomes a rich woman, she'll come back and support me. Gu Mengmeng laughed heartily and hugged Bailon's shoulders. All right, your dream has come true. Today, I'll take care of you for a day. I'll bring you out to eat and buy, how about that? Bailon pretended to be bashful as she leaned against Gu Mengmeng's shoulder, pinching her throat as she said, all right, the 2 of them immediately had goosebumps. They rubbed their shoulders, smiled, and walked into the mall arm in arm. They really began to buy all kinds of things. If it was in the past, Gu Mengmeng might not have been able to swipe Snake's card like that. But now, although they were not protected by modern marriage laws, but a man who could die twice for her. He was willing to give his life to her. How could he not be willing to spend money? Moreover, it was just an illusion. Why not to satisfy herself and Bailon? From skincare products to clothes, shoes, hats and handbags, Gu Mengmeng and Bailan only stopped when they could no longer carry everything. Meanwhile, at the other end of the basketball court, Snake's face brightened up as the spending records kept appearing on his phone. Gu Shin. Gu. 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 You. Gu. I, tu, gu. Gu gu. Tian. I. Lawn. I, tu. I. Bailan and tu. Looking at the things she and Bailan were carrying, Gu Mengmeng pretended to be tired and said, "There are too many things, we can't carry them all." I. Bye-bye. Lawn. King Bai. Bailan nodded in deep agreement. Lawn. I. But. I. Lawn. I. But. I. But I. But I. But. Yes, but I bought too many things, so I can't carry them all. Can you come and pick us up? Chapter 1658. We are at Zhuozhan. Snake answered directly. How did you know? Gu Mengmeng asked in confusion. Snake smiled and answered, "There's a note on the text message about the place of consumption." Gu Mengmeng was at a loss for words. She smiled and said, "All right, we will wait for you at the entrance." Snake responded, then left some instructions to Zhang Jincheng before driving off. On the way back, Gu Mengmeng got more nervous the closer they got to the basketball arena. She was so nervous that she did not dare to look at Bailan's eyes. She did not know if it was a psychological effect, but Gu Mengmeng's entire body tensed up. She laughed self-deprecatingly in her heart. Bailan was being proposed to, why was she so nervous? Finally, the car stopped at the entrance of the basketball arena. The lights in the arena were switched off and it was pitch black. Bailan asked, "What are we doing here?" Gu Mengmeng was so nervous that she kept stuttering. She looked at Snake helplessly and said, Yes, what are we doing here?" Snake reached out a hand and stroked Gu Mengmeng's little head with a gentle smile. "Just now, Zhang Jincheng called me and said that he had left the anti-inflammatory medicine in the changing room when he came to settle the paperwork to leave the team. He asked Bailan to help him get it and he will go to Bailan's place to get it tomorrow." Bailan replied with an "oh" with a look of disdain. She then got off the car and said to Gu Mengmeng, "Then you two wait here for me. We have too many things, you have to send me back to the dormitory." Gu Mengmeng gave an "okay" sign and watched as Bailan entered the basketball arena. After Bailan entered the basketball arena, Gu Mengmeng stretched her neck to look inside. Her two little hands clutched Snake's arm tightly. After waiting for a long time, there was no reaction from inside. Gu Mengmeng became a little anxious. "Why is there no movement?" Snake scanned the arena and said, "That's right, why is there no movement? There couldn't have been any mistakes, right?" "Ah." Gu Mengmeng's face was full of worry. "No, this is an important day for Bailan. Let's go in and take a look. We cannot let this matter go wrong." "All right." Snake smiled indulgently and allowed Gu Mengmeng to pull him down the car and walk towards the basketball court. Gu Mengmeng was so focused on Bailan that she did not notice that the moment they alighted, Snake held on to her tightly. It looked like he was being pulled by her, but behind her, he was looking at her with such a gentle and loving gaze. The lights in the basketball court were not switched on, but it was pitch black inside. Gu Mengmeng should have been able to see clearly with her night vision, but the moment she stepped into the basketball court, her eyes were blindfolded by Snake. What are you doing? Gu Meng Meng did not struggle and just asked curiously. Snake nudged Gu Meng Meng inside and said, "Be good, wait a while." Gu Meng Meng felt that it was strange, but her heart was thumping non-stop. Vaguely, Gu Meng Meng seemed to understand something. Snake. Gu Meng Meng sounded like she was about to cry as she called out Snake's name. Snake slowly released Gu Meng Meng's eyes. At the same time, with a click of the switch, the entire basketball court was brightly lit as if it was daytime. The words, "Gu Meng Meng, I love you," were written on the balloon castle. Chapter 1659. Gu Meng Meng was so touched that she wanted to cry, and in fact, she was already crying. What are you doing? Gu Meng Meng was laughing and crying at the same time. She did not know what to say. After Snake returned, they became partners not long after. His mark was already on her heart. Why was he still proposing now? She was already married to him. How could she still say no now? Snake just knelt there without moving, looking up and smiling without a hint of impatience. He just replied gently, "How can I allow you to be envious of other women because of other men? I cannot allow you to feel aggrieved or regretful, not even the slightest bit. But didn't you say you would only propose once?" Gu Meng Meng was so touched that her tears started to fall, but she forgot to let Snake stand up. Snake just knelt there, still smiling. His eyes were filled with deep emotions. "In front of you, I never have any principles or bottom line. For you, I can do anything. What's the big deal about overthrowing myself?" Gu Meng Meng wanted to say something, but Bai Lan could not stand it anymore. She pushed her lightly from behind and said, "Are you just going to let him kneel like this?" Gu Meng Meng then reacted. "Hurry and get up, you haven't agreed to my proposal, how can I get up?" Snake was still smiling. His gaze towards Gu Meng Meng was as gentle as water and as deep as the ocean. "Say yes. Say yes. Say yes." Everyone present started to jeer. Because in their eyes, Snake and Gu Meng Meng were just a couple who had confirmed their relationship for a few months. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head forcefully, then smiled and pulled Snake up. Snake took the opportunity to pull Gu Meng Meng into his arms. He kissed her forehead and said, "In 3 lifetimes, you are the only one I have knelt to. Gu Meng Meng, you have the right to be arrogant." Gu Meng Meng buried her face in Snake's arms. She knew that what he said about 3 lifetimes was not just an adjective. Following this hug, the relatives and friends who came to witness this happy moment all pulled the ribbons. Colorful ribbons and colorful pieces of paper fell from the sky. Blessings filled the surroundings. Partners. She had 3. But this was the first time she experienced a real proposal. Gu Meng Meng never knew that even though she had given birth to a few children, her maiden heart was still budding. And Snake was the one who revived her maiden heart. Gu Meng Meng looked up at Snake's eyes and said gently, "Ah Kel, thank you." Snake kissed Gu Meng Meng's eyes and said, "What are you thanking me for? This is what I should give you. We'll be on holiday next week. Let's go back to F country to get our marriage certificate and have our honeymoon." Ha! Gu Meng Meng was taken aback. "What? You just agreed to my proposal, and now you're going back on your word?" "No." Gu Meng Meng was in a difficult position. She glanced at Elvis, Leah and Gregory from the corner of her eyes. Snake bit Gu Meng Meng's ear lightly and said, "Silly girl, do you really not know how much your males love you?" Gu Meng Meng looked at the 3 of them standing at the side in confusion. She then looked back at Snake's face. Snake kissed her on the lips and said, "Your men will never bear for you to suffer in any way." What he meant was that Elvis and the other 2 had agreed to Snake's actions today. Chapter 1660. You will experience such a scene 2 or 3 more times. But today, you are mine. Snake used a voice that only the two of them could hear to whisper into Gu Mingming's ear, before kissing her deeply on the lips. After a round of hubbub, Gu Mengmeng pushed Snake with a blushing face, before turning to look at Bailan. Narrowing her eyes, she said, "Great, you are actually in cahoots with them." Bailan raised her hands in surrender, saying, "I am a traitor, I am guilty." So what Zhang Jinqing proposing, was all a ruse. Today, I am not the one pestering you, you are the one pestering me. Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. To think that she was so good at acting, how could she not see that she had been tricked by Bailan? Bailan laughed heartily, stretching out her left hand and shaking her fingers. Zhang Jinqing proposed to me last week in the hospital. Today, in order to lie to you, I didn't even dare to wear an engagement ring. Bailan. Your engagement is such a big event, how could you not call me? Gu Mengmeng pounced on Bailan relentlessly, not hitting her, but just tickling her. Bailan was most ticklish, so she could only beg for mercy, saying, "I was wrong, I was really wrong, ha ha ha, girl, forgive me, ha ha ha. I am doing this for my future husband's future." What future? Gu Mingming's hand stopped moving, looking at Bailan in confusion. Bailan held on to Zhang Jincheng's arm, leaning against his shoulder like a little bird, saying, "Zhang Jincheng took over as the CEO of the MO Group 3 days ago, and now your fiancé Snake is my fiancé's boss. Sorry, for the sake of our family's future happiness, I can only shamelessly betray my friend for my own glory." You still dare to act so righteously? Gu Mengmeng said, but she was smiling. Of course I'm righteous. Bailan laughed, just based on our relationship, I can act righteously in front of you for the rest of my life. Anyway, you can't bear to not acknowledge me. You win. Gu Mengmeng swung her arm in the end, before leaning back into Snake's arms. That night, the basketball stadium was very lively. Her close friends, men and women, were all drunk together. Later, they said that they were so drunk that they saw a fox and a wolf jumping up and down in the basketball court, making a fool of themselves. A gigantic bird that he had never seen before was flying around the basketball court. There seemed to be a drunk girl on its back, singing at the top of her lungs. And the amazing thing was that even though they were out of tune, they could still sing together. After waking up, everyone showed great interest in this dream. The probability of everyone having the same dream was really not high, so everyone tried to go back and check the surveillance to see what exactly happened that night that caused them to have the same hallucination. It was a pity that the surveillance footage was suddenly cut off after Gu Mengmeng agreed to Snake's proposal. It was said that the fuse of the camera was blown. Meanwhile, in the villa on the other side, Gu Mengmeng was standing in front of the television, pointing at a fox and a wolf in a drunken stupor, asking, "In the past, you two were not convinced when I said that your alcohol tolerance was bad. What about this time? Isn't this irrefutable evidence? Would he still drink in the future? Ha! Would he still drink?" Elvis and Leah shook their heads obediently, indicating that they would never touch alcohol again. Then, they looked at Snake at the same time. They clearly remembered that Snake also drank quite a lot, so why was he fine? Snake's lips curled up, looking at Elvis and Leah, saying, "You two are still very weak." Aside from the topic, the first part of the story ended here. This part was mainly led by Snake, and there were also other spies planted in the middle. If the reaction of the story is good, and everyone likes it, I will consider the content of other people proposing to Gu Mengmeng. Chapter 1661. Although the kidnapping incident was over and those hooligans who insisted that they saw demons were locked up in the mental hospital, there were always coincidences. For example, the scene that day was actually witnessed by a few homeless beggars. But their words did not carry much weight, and even if they said it, no one would believe them. But the hooligans' testimonies, the beggars' rumors, and the scene that the students thought they saw when they were drunk on the day of the engagement, combined together, it gradually formed an exaggerated version of the story that even Gu Mengmeng herself found ridiculous. In order not to expose any more flaws, they could only complete the school transfer procedures and follow Snake back to F country. F country was Snake's home ground, and he had a strong family background as his backing. As for academics, naturally no one dared to seriously calculate Gu Mingming's academic points. Therefore, this ordinary student from a third-rate university in S City had transformed into a top student from a famous brand university in F country. Gu Mengmeng sat on the small boat drifting with the current and held her chin. Looking at the males surrounding her, she sighed softly. Although in this era, Snake was Gu Mingming's legitimate fiancé, the beast world had its own rules. No matter how strong the other partners were, the position of the first partner could not be violated. So, outside of Snake's home, Gu Mengmeng would always sit in Elvis's arms. What's wrong? Elvis's gaze was always concerned about the little person in his arms. No matter how different this world was from the beast world, in his eyes, it was just the same mountains and rivers. Only the one in his arms was a thousand-faced beauty that he could not get enough of. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis and did not say a word before lowering her head again. If you don't like this place, can we go to other countries to play? Anyway, the problem of their identities has already been resolved, we can go anywhere. The current Snake was no longer the cold Snake King with low EQ. In front of Gu Mengmeng, both his EQ and EQ were always online. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and still did not say a word. Leo laughed softly and transformed his large tail to sit beside Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng instinctively hugged his tail, but her eyes widened. She instinctively lowered her voice and said, "Are you crazy? We are outside. What if someone sees us? Take it back, take it back." Leah placed his hands on Gu Mingming's shoulders and squinted his long and narrow eyes. His faint smile had a unique charm to it as he whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "How can I let you go when you're hugging me so tightly? Mengmeng who says one thing and means another is so cute." Gu Mengmeng looked down at her own hands. Sigh, what a good-for-nothing. This furry fetish was her Achilles heel, and she could not change it. Just as he was about to let go, Leah added, "Don't worry, even if someone sees it, they would only think that you're wearing a fox tail as an accessory. I've seen it on the road. Many people hang a fox's tail on their bags. It's just that the ones they hang aren't as good as yours." As Leah spoke, he even used the tip of his tail to tickle Gu Mingming's skin. It was so ticklish that Gu Mengmeng giggled before he stopped. Gregory sat quietly at the side. His eyes were filled with deep affection, but he didn't say a word. Unless Gu Mengmeng took the initiative to call him, he had no right to speak in this family. Aside from the topic, "My babies, sorry for the long wait. The editor informed us that we can continue updating the chapter at the last minute." Previously, everyone had been saying that Susu was biased towards Snake and only updated his marriage proposals, not the other three. So now that Susu had the chance, she came to present the marriage proposals one by one. Chapter 1662. Only when Gu Mengmeng smiled did the atmosphere on the boat lighten up. After all, every time she sighed, the four males would feel their hearts wrench. Leo was naturally a great hero, because no matter if it was in the beast world or the present world, he was always the one who knew how to make Gu Mengmeng happy. The current Snake also knew how to tease Gu Mengmeng, but he did not have a tail like Leah. TSK, he really wanted to kill him. Previously in the Snake King Valley, this fellow used his tail to make fun of him. Now it was like this again. But what else could he do? That tail was what Tu Meng liked. Leah did not care about Snake's inner thoughts. He struck while the iron was hot and asked, Meng Meng, tell me, why are you sighing? Did someone make you unhappy, or did you think of something unpleasant? If you say it, Daddy Leah will settle it for you. Gu Meng Meng poked Lee's forehead, causing his head to tilt backwards. Then, she flung Lee's tail away and shrunk into Elvis's arms, hugging him tightly and saying, I want to return to the beast world. Once she said those words, the males looked at each other for a while. If it was something else, they could do it for her. But Gu Meng Meng was the previous beast deity, the messenger of the beast deity. Her identity could never appear in the beast world again. It was not that these beast kings were unwilling to hide their identities with her, but the doors of time and space that belonged to her had already closed and disappeared, never to reappear again. Gu Meng Meng buried her face in Elvis's chest, ignoring the males who were racking their brains to think of a solution. She just continued, I like the rules in the beast world. There are no sluts who stare at other males day in and day out. The moment he said that, the other three turned to look at Elvis in unison. Elvis's face darkened. I don't know her, nor did I speak to her. She can't be slut on me. Gu Meng Meng lowered her head, harumphed and did not reply, but her arms around Elvis's waist tightened. Elvis was also helpless. Before boarding the boat, she suddenly said she wanted to eat ice cream, so Elvis crossed the small square in front of the pier to buy it for her. Unexpectedly, when he came back, a woman in a revealing and strange outfit suddenly stuffed a note into his pocket. He held the ice cream with both hands and couldn't push her away. The woman wanted more and wanted to kiss him. Elvis could not accept any females other than Gu Meng Meng getting close to him. Especially since he was a wolf beast and was especially sensitive to smells, the smell on that female almost made him choke to death. Therefore, without thinking, he raised his leg and kicked the woman, sending her flying. No matter what others were saying, Elvis returned to Gu Meng Meng's side without turning back. In the end, Gu Meng Meng did not even want to eat the ice cream. She pounced into his arms and tore out the note from his pocket. She threw it into the bin with the ice cream and hung it on his body. He was the one who hugged her every day, so he didn't think too much about it. Seeing that she was in a bad mood, he didn't dare to speak casually, afraid that he would say something wrong and make her even more unhappy. Now that she opened her mouth, he finally understood that his Xiao Meng was jealous. Actually, he was quite happy. Because if she was jealous, it meant that she cared about him. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.